Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
And I'm MK.
How are you?
Well, for those of you who have listened to this podcast for some time, you'll know that I am engaged.
Or if you've listened for very little time, you'll also
Time
know
also,
that
that's
she's
true.
engaged.
But last Saturday we had, the world's most awkward thing that you have to do when you decide to marry someone and have your parents and their parents meet for the first time.
Forgot about that.
Um, yeah, and I was nervous, not because like my parents are like the chillest, most flexible people in the whole wide world, and like they feel like they could like meet anyone and be fine with them. Um, but my future in-laws are lovably neurotic, and I was concerned. Um, but then weirdly, my future sister-in-law just Snapchatted me. That was confusing. Um, but then my future mother-in-law was like, I was there early to help her like set up and everything, and she that just kept saying that I'm so nervous, like I want them to like me, and I was like, they're not the ones I'm worried about. um but it went really, really well. Everybody got along.
Good.
Both of Jan's parents just kept telling me how great my parents were. um
I mean, your parents are great, so I'm not surprised by
yeah.
that. So,
But it was lovely, and it was good, and we talked some wedding stuff, and only once did I really want to like yell at people that they don't get to have opinions about things. Just like trying to tell me who should like sing songs at my wedding. I'm like, what if no one? What if I don't want anyone to sing? What if I just want the organist to like play the hymns and be done with it, and I don't
yeah.
need special music? That's weird. Um, I don't know. Feels but then like, oh, the one time that I actually got sassy was everyone was trying to tell me to tell my photographer to Photoshop snow into the engagement photos.
No, it's either there or it's not. Like, we're not
Right.
faking things.
And I was like, I will not question, I was like, I will not invalidate the integrity of my photographer and her product.
Absolutely.
She's been a photographer for 14 years, and she's been my friend for 17. I couldn't remember when I started high school.
Quite a few.
So, yeah. So, like, no, I will not be doing that. But then she said that there is a snow filter that she could show me what it looks like to see if I hate it. And she was like, it's not like it doesn't look like Photoshop. It's just a filter that kind of like adds that little glisten like snow would. And I was like, okay, like if some of the photos you give me are edited and I like it, that's one thing, but I'm not gonna have you draw snow in the pictures.
Yeah, for sure. You want to represent your wedding how it was. Like, that's the whole point.
Yeah. No.
So, but yeah, I mean, but yes, editing techniques are fine. And I think
Yeah, and I
those
think
would
they're
be fun
great
to
because,
have.
well, and because it's also like still her skill and her eye and stuff like
Yes.
that. It's like, um, so, but I was like, what is wrong with people?
So many things.
Because
So
then I
many.
also like I saw things online, like people were like, I don't like the way my photographer edited this. Like, can I change it? And it's like, literally, I've never had a photographer not have things about that in their contract. Like, you can't just change professional photography. That's not how that works. And like people in these bride groups online will be like, yeah, like just do it. No one's gonna know. That's that's not how.
You should have hired a better photographer if you don't like your photography that was
Yeah.
done.
And like
Like,
I get it, you can't go back and fix the day, like, and I'm sorry that
yeah.
that happened to you, but like I don't know. People are like,
And
can
also,
every
they'll do edits usually that like
yeah.
fix a lot of problems that people have. Like,
Well, my favorite is then they're like, can someone Photoshop this person out of this picture? Just why did you have them? If you don't want them in a picture from your wedding, don't why did you invite them to your wedding?
right.
It doesn't even make sense to me. And I get that I'm getting married much older than a lot of these people are. I'm like, if you get married when you're 21, like the people, if I had gotten married at 21, the people that were at my wedding are not people that I speak to now.
Right.
So like I get it, kind of.
Mm.
But like if you don't like your brother's girlfriend, get a picture without her in it. Like with just your brother. I don't get it.
Yeah. You're in control of your wedding. Like that's the whole thing. It's yours, not theirs. So
Yeah. So wedding planning is going swimmingly. I haven't murdered anyone yet.
I'm
So
very proud of you
thank you.
for killing
Thank
it.
you. How are you?
I'm fine. I hope you can't hear all this stomping around that Sadie's doing.
I cannot.
Great, because she is sure causing a ruckus right now. Um, I'm fine. I slept for 11 hours yesterday, which
So
was
jealous.
because I haven't done that in a while, and
Yeah.
everything has been terrible. So it's good to sleep. I'm trying to make myself remember that it's a holiday break and have to stop thinking about work because everything at work is stressful and I can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
And so if you see me, that's why my hair looks a little, we'll say disheveled, because I went out last night and shook work off. And so it was raining and I love walking in the rain. It adds to my macabre sense of everything I love. So like one of my faves. So I spent like 2 hours in the rain last night. And so my hair reflects that. So I'm sorry. But I feel better. So here I am.
You just reminded me of a TikTok I saw where this Australian teacher that I watch some of his TikTok videos sometimes teaches kindergarten, and one of the kindergartners asked him what Taylor Swift is trying to shake off in the Shake It Off video. And like the kids were all coming up with things that they thought that she might be shaking off. And one of them was like, I think she's like a dog that got wet and she's just got to like shake it off.
I love it.
And that was what I was picturing you, that's how I pictured you shaking off your work, was by standing in the rain and shaking like a dog.
Basically, it was almost exactly like that. So great imagery. But yeah, so I'm much better, even though I'm still convincing myself that I have to forget everything else exists except me in real life. So I'm okay though. I'm doing all right. But
Lovely.
you have, I'm sure, something that'll add a little sparkle to my day and make it even better. Please enlighten me spiritually.
Yeah, I think this is a great one. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself.
Correct. That is 100% correct. And our friend Demon Andy does that quite well. And so we're gonna get right into The Exorcist season 2, episode 8. It is titled A Heaven of Hell.
I don't even have words at this current moment. So
we spoiler alert, prepared for 3 episodes today, two horror and 1 sci-fi. So we already know the next episode, but it was a lot to see both of these in one day.
It was. My biggest thing about episode 8 is that it ruined the only theory I had going forward in the show. Because if you remember last week, I talked about how I thought that Russ was going to actually be like helpful.
Yeah.
Spoiler, he's dead as a doornail. And that means he's not going to save anyone. And I'm a little sad about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, he is not our knight in shining armor anymore.
No.
But this one did air. It skipped Thanksgiving week, so they did give people a night off for Thanksgiving. So this one did not come out until December 1st, which is when you're watching this tomorrow. So we are right there.
Not.
Sure is. This comes out on the 30th.
Yes, it does. I forgot that November only had 30 days.
Yes.
I literally wrote down what days the episodes are coming out too. Like I wrote it down and I was like, this does not come out before December 1st. It does. It comes out on the 30th. Yeah, that's all correct.
Like months are hard. And I'm sure we've talked about this on the podcast before in ages past, But did you learn the jingle or did you learn the knuckle trick for months?
I learned the jingle. Fuck the
Okay, I
knuckle
only
trick.
know the jingle. I had no idea
Yeah.
what the knuckle trick thing was until like 10 years
Yeah,
ago.
I think I learned it when I started teaching at an elementary school, and I was like,
Hmm.
the fuck is that?
What are you people doing? You don't know anything.
I did learn the finger trick for nines, though.
I did too. I did
Yeah.
too. And we were on opposite sides of the world, so I don't know why like there's so many people in between us that learned it differently than we did. But
Yeah,
it's fine.
because no offense to you or to anyone you know, but it's not like New York and Louisiana have similar educational standards.
Not at all. 0%. Yeah. So I just lucked out with the teachers that taught you the normal things, I guess. So
Yeah.
cheers to that. It was rated 7.7 out of 10, which is fair. I
Say
personally
so.
probably would have rated this closer to a 7 because everything else has been about an 8 right now, a little above an 8.
Yeah, I can see it just, I mean, it wasn't bad, but I see it
No,
just being like slightly below. That's fine.
yeah. It just was lacking a bit because of how well done everything else was. So,
Yeah.
compared to other horror shows, I would not give this a 7. I would give it over an 8, but comparatively in this show, that's
I
what I
did
would give.
like the end of it though.
Yes, the end was incredible, and we will definitely get there. Don't you fret. The number one song is Still Rockstar by Post Malone. One day I will listen to more Post Malone and no more. The number one movie is Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And the number one book is The Midnight Line by Lee Child, who
Where's
everyone loves
the
Lee
Last
Child.
Jedi came out? I thought it came out later in December.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Huh.
First. I think it was the next year it came out closer to Christmas when we had our next release. Star Wars round 3, round 2.
Oh yeah, no, I know that. No, I just could have sworn it was December 2017 was when it came out, but it must have, yeah, December, I'm not incorrect. It wasn't released until December 15th of 2017.
Oh,
So I
well,
don't
why
know
was it the
how,
number one movie already?
I don't know. The LA premiere wasn't even until the 9th. Sorry, I knew it didn't come out till the 15th. I was like, that's not correct.
Maybe I put in December 17th of 2017. That's something I could have done. So
That is totally valid because
so
I've
everyone
done
just
that too.
pretend like I'm right and I know everything I'm talking about. That's
Sorry.
all I can
I didn't
say.
I didn't mean to rain on your parade, but Star Wars is my shit, and I was like, that movie was not out yet.
No, I know it's totally fine. I saw it. I saw it right after it came out, so I just have no memory of life. Yeah,
Well, that
so
was
Star
law
Wars
school.
that
That
came out on the 15th actually came out on the 1st, for those of you that didn't know. I got a private showing of it. The number one book was Midnight Line by Lee Child, like I was saying, and I've never loved Lee Child. I want to.
I don't
Preston
know
and Child
anything
did so much
about Lee
things.
Child.
Preston and Child were a lot together, and I don't even know what his like number one series is. I can't think of it right off the top of my head. It's not the Will Trent one, but it's the other one. But I just never got into their writing style, so sorry. But they're super popular without me, so it's okay.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair.
on this day, a good bit happened.
I
Not
bet.
really. It was very hard for me to find information for this day, but it is World AIDS Day.
Sorry, just so you know, December 1st, Coco was still the number one movie.
Oh, thank you. I was gonna look it up and I was like, I can't. My phone is actively recording.
Yeah, no, Coco was still the number one movie. Or no, yeah. So
That tracks.
until Star Wars came out, and then it wasn't anymore.
Sure.
But
So yeah, Disney till Disney till Disney. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. So on this day, it's World AIDS Day. Jim Neighbors, who was Gomer Pyle, died at 87.
Okay.
And I'm so sorry. She is acting like quite a fool. And I can't. She's pulled all my pillows off my bed that she can't even reach. And then also, it was the 25th anniversary of the release of Titanic. So,
Okay. All right.
fun times. The director of this episode is Mira Meenan, and she's known for Farrah Goes Bang, Equity, Blood Drive, and Miss Marvel, which is the only one I've seen. It's Miss Marvel. She also, her father was a director, screenwriter, producer, and actor. And that's kind of what inspired her to get into this field as well. And
Okay.
my favorite fact, she won the first ever Nora Ephron Award
I love
for Fair
that.
Goes Bang at the what is the festival? It's Tribeca Film Festival.
Oh, there we go. I was like, what is what festival?
The Tribeca Film Festival.
Makes sense.
Um, the writers were mostly returning. Heather Belson, who is also a producer, but she did write season 1, episode 2. So we have
Okay.
seen her before. David
Okay.
Grimm, Alyssa Clark, and M. Wills. I didn't see a first name. It is a woman, but I didn't see a first name. They're known for Star Trek, Lower Decks, She-Ra,
Love
and the
Lower
Princesses.
Decks. I
A
love
lot of animated
She-Ra.
stuff.
Love
Yep.
it.
Yep. And My Adventures with Superman.
Okay.
So
All
a lot
right.
of animated stuff and The Exorcist. So great.
Oh,
And she was inspired by Ron Moore's reimagined Battlestar Galactica. That's what kind of kicked off her career, was being
okay.
inspired by that.
Okay.
Our editor was Pietro Cecchini, who we've seen a few times already. And then our star for today, which perhaps should have been episode 9 star, but I'm doing it episode 8 because I got too excited, is Alex Barima, who plays Shelby.
Oh,
And I did not realize that he was in things I've seen before,
okay.
because he's like such a prominent role here that I didn't like place him anywhere else.
Right. Like you just see him as Shelby.
Right. And so he's known for Resident Alien, Shmigadoon, and Riverdale. So I was like,
Oh,
I've seen most of Riverdale.
I
So I've
haven't
definitely
seen
seen
any of
him.
Riverdale, so like that's fair for me, but
I was extremely obsessed with the Archie comics growing up as a child. So
oh,
like,
me too. And that's why I
definitely.
didn't watch Riverdale because it looked like it was
Fair.
gonna be not at all the comics, which turns
It's,
out that's
yeah,
true. It isn't. Um, I
it
still
is, but the only people that like it are the people that read the comics. They're not new people watching it.
I feel like everybody who watched it had no idea who the characters were. Like people watched it who liked like teen drama. People who like because that's what it is. It's like not it's
Yeah.
the comics, but it's not the comics at all.
I feel like everyone that I've talked to that like had read the comics loved it for the nostalgia and agreed that
Mm,
it wasn't like the best written show or whatever, but they loved it for what it was. And
okay.
everyone who had like was not aware of the comics really hated it. They were like, "There's nothing good about this show," and
Okay. I maybe
maybe that's
spend more
regional.
time. Maybe that's regional, and also maybe I spend more time with young people than you do,
Mm,
like
true.
teenagers.
Yeah, the intended target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, some fun facts about him. While we may not have pictured him anywhere else, have you seen him anywhere else? Did you know where else he came from?
um, not. I know I've seen it. Like his face is the kind of face
Mm.
that I've definitely probably seen. But I don't know that I know him.
So he was in a show with one of our faves, Joel De La Fuente. He
Mm,
was indeed in Man in the High Castle.
okay. Okay.
Also, he's worked with another one of our favorites quite a bit, Amanda Tapping.
Really?
And she's directed quite a few
She
more
does.
things than I realized.
She does directs a lot,
So,
especially recently.
yeah. So she directed the episode of Continuum that he was on. Like he was on an
Okay.
episode of Continuum.
Well, and
And
Continuum is one of those shows that everybody who made it also made Stargate. So,
that tracks. That tracks. But she's also a director on Supernatural, which I did not realize.
yes, I
And
did.
he was in an episode or 2 episodes or something of Supernatural. And so,
Okay.
and that was, and like in his bio, it's just like he's known for working with like another guy and Amanda Tapping. So I'm sure there's more. Those were just the top 2
Right.
things. Um,
Okay.
so can't get rid of her this
Ooh,
week just because it's horror.
sorry. I was looking at his thing just to see he was in the new or the new miniseries of Most Dangerous Game, like the new show of the Most Dangerous Game. Which I
didn't see
wonder, I didn't see it because I didn't know how they were going to make it a short story into a multi-series like
I also haven't
TV
read it.
show. Ugh, I should.
Who is that? Who wrote it?
I don't remember somebody in the 1800s. No, it's in the 19 like 10s or something, but
Yeah.
it's like one of those Richard Connell wrote it. It's one of those like quintessential English teacher high school short stories. Doug just finished teaching it to his kids.
Interesting. I never read it in high school. I had an excellent English teacher, but I might. It sounds like it's up my alley.
No, I love it. The Most Dangerous Game and The Yellow Wallpaper and A Rose for Emily. Those are my three favorite short stories because they're just, you're like, what the fuck am I
Super creepy. Yeah.
What the fuck am I reading?
I've read the last two, but I don't remember Rose for Emily to save my life. I only remember The Yellow Wallpaper. So, and no one else knows it, and I reference it all the time. So
me too. I talk about it literally once a week.
Yeah, I'm not that often, but I also don't teach. But I'd say at least every 2 months I mention it. So very frequent for someone who hasn't read it in 25 years, like, or 20 years, whatever. Whenever I read that. But yeah. So are you ready to get started?
Oh yeah.
So before I even started the episode, just seeing the picture of Verity standing at the end of Andy's bed, I knew this was going to be a crazy episode. Like, yeah. That's the picture on Hulu.
I didn't remember the picture. Well, what happened was a couple weeks ago, when I was watching the episode at school that day, somehow when I left my classroom, my laptop kept playing. So my Hulu was technically halfway through this episode, so I had to restart it. So I didn't see that. But what I knew was going to be a problem was how much of the previously on was not from this season.
Yep. Yep. That was the second thing I noticed.
I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. Great. That's where we're going. Fantastic.
Good times. Yeah. So we start this episode. Everyone is staying at the Holstrom's house. And they're not telling them what's going on.
No, obviously. Andy has pneumonia.
Yeah, they've all told them that Andy has pneumonia, and so they're like, "Don't worry, he's gonna get better." Like, I had pneumonia, everything's fine.
I know. I love how they were like, "What is a disease that is contagious and is also bad enough that someone would for sure be debilitated for potentially a very long time, but also hopefully won't kill them?" And like spun a wheel. Like, I was like, how did it? Because when I think, oh, I have pneumonia, most people get over pneumonia. Like,
right.
Unless you're elderly or have another condition at the same time, or are my mom and wait until literally your lung capacity is like negative to go to the hospital for your pneumonia. That true story happened to her. But you don't often. I won't say often. I don't know the actual stats, but most people I know who have had pneumonia survived it.
Yeah.
I've never known someone who that is why they died. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but in my life, that has never been the case.
Right.
So to have the kids be as scared as they were, they might have wanted to pick a slightly different disease.
Yeah, something that was a little more scary. But,
I mean, they could have just said COVID, but it was 2017.
It was we weren't there yet, so no one. Yeah. So
could you imagine how many people with COVID actually just are possessed by demons?
I hope all of them. I mean, I had COVID twice and I wasn't possessed by a demon, but like that would have probably been better. So
what do you have?
I mean, I don't know. Better story.
Truly.
Better for me, maybe. I don't know. My health probably would have improved faster once the demon was gone than when COVID was gone.
True.
So maybe it is better to be possessed by a demon than to have COVID. Who's to say? Not I. So it also doesn't help in the same sense where you're like, this could have been worse. Rose is also like panicked and taking all of them off the island.
Yeah.
Which sounds extreme for pneumonia.
Right.
And so like, yeah, it's a weird situation. But also in the midst of all of this, when Russ steps away, Verity's like, yeah, there's no way that we're going back. Like, this is never going to be the same. Like, once we leave this island, we're not going back to Andy. Like, he's never.
And to be fair, she's not wrong. She's
No,
being very logical because what are they going to do? The exorcism is complete, and then he has to what tell the state that he was possessed by a demon when he murdered that lady, and so
right.
he should still be allowed to have his children. Like what?
Yeah. And we were already on the fritz because he was a solo parent for these 5 kids.
Yeah. So now
Like,
he's a solo parent who's a murderer.
yeah. Who also couldn't take care of the kids for, say, who couldn't take care of the kids for like however long.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah. So, I mean, yeah, she's 100% right. And like, also, that's the correct move by the state. Like, for sure, don't give them
oh
back.
no,
But
I'm not judging the state at all. I would also rehome them. I
yeah.
do hate the foster system in this country and the fact that rehoming them would probably mean separating them. But
And could potentially be worse for them. But
absolutely, like there's a lot of issues, but as the state, absolutely they don't go back there. Like no.
yeah.
No, no, no.
Yeah. So we go to Andy, who's laying in bed with Nikki when the voices start to creep through his head. And the demon tells Marcus to take a break. He's like, it's totally fine. You need rest. It's not working. And then he brings up Mouse. And so at least we're finally getting into the part where we're like, we're going to learn this story soon, hopefully. Like, it's not just
Yeah.
this in the air.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, Andy is starting to realize that things are a bit strange in his dream state, but he's not sure why. And then we hit the credits. And I have to say, one of the things that first set me off is this felt like a bit of a weaker intro than we've had.
Yeah.
It wasn't as intentional, which is not necessary. It just,
I mean,
all
but
of them have
also
been intense.
it has, but also remember the placement. It's the 8th episode. It's the drop before the ramp up. It makes sense. Stylistically, storytelling wise, it has to be the weakest episode or there's too much anxiety for the show. It makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
It does suck the timing of the season because like if I was super into it and then there was a week off for Thanksgiving and then I came back and this was the episode, I would be like, okay.
Like,
I think
maybe
they would have. I think they would have got me back by the end.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I will say I watched 2 episodes today, and one of them I talked out loud at the TV, and this was not the one. So
yeah, if you hung in there for the next one, you were definitely back in. Like,
yeah,
no question. So we come back and we're at Mouse in bed, and thankfully Bennett is alive.
yeah. Thank
Maybe not
the Lord.
forever, but he is alive for now. But he's refusing to go to a hospital, and he says he has a fever. And Mouse is like, "You might die. We should do this." And he's like, "No, it's more important that we get to Marcus and Tomas."
Right.
Which, like,
And what? No.
But true. They have to be there to protect them. Had Mouse not shown up, hit or miss. But also Bennett could have been dropped off at a hospital and Mouse could have continued on. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. So then he brings up Marcus to her because this is everyone's question.
Yes.
And she says that they just work together. It's not a big deal. She doesn't have any friends. And I'm sorry, hold on. Yeah. Sorry, she's pulling stuff off of my bed, and I had to move it to the center of the bed so she couldn't reach it. And then when she tells him that she has no friends, shortly after he passes out. So he didn't make it very far in this episode so far. But we go back to past Mouse, and we learn that she was a nun in training. She had not quite been affirmed yet. Do you get affirmed as a nun? What is the proper word?
Oh God, what is the word for it? You take your vows. You are like, I don't know.
Sworn in. When you take your vows as law, you're sworn
it's
in.
not. Yeah, that's not what it is. I don't know.
That's okay because she hasn't done it yet. She's just currently in training still. And Marcus is telling her that she should just run away. He's like, you haven't committed yet. You're fine. Just like run off to France or run off to all these places and just like make a better life for yourself. And
Ordained. Sorry,
ordained.
ordained. That's the
Yes.
word. I
And
was like, I know this freaking word.
yeah. And she's like, well, you could run off too. And he's like, no, I can't. Like, this path chose me. I didn't choose it. And she talks about like how great it is that he's a vessel. Like, he knows that he's supposed to be doing this. And like,
Yeah.
she feels like she's supposed to be doing this, but she doesn't have like the confirmation of God speaking through her to her to confirm that.
Right.
And then we learn that there's also something that she's not allowed to see, that sometimes it seems Marcus lets her see. But that's all we know so far.
You know.
So we jump back to present time, and they're drinking coffee because they've been awake for a few days now, and they're trying to stay awake. I don't know that I could drink enough coffee to stay up for 3 days straight.
No, I could not.
I've
No.
weakened my intake of caffeine, so maybe 20 years I could have. But also Tomas just keeps looking at this dead woman. It's like he's sensing something from the body. And I can't decide if
Yeah.
it's guilt or if it's that he's actually sensing something. Like guilt that she died while he was there. I don't know.
I don't know what it sounds like he heard things. Like he was making
Yes.
weird faces. I don't know what was happening.
Yeah, so it's a weird situation. But then Marcus is talking to Tomas, and Tomas asks about Mouse again. And he's like, what's happening here? Like, why did the demon bring her up? And he's like, totally okay. She's just a friend. Like, nothing to worry about. She's a nun now. She's super happy wherever she is. And I'm like, it's not quite right. But it's nice that you think that.
I mean,
It's a nice
that's,
memory.
but I think we find out that that is the reality he's created for himself to like hope that she's okay, because I think he feels like everyone he gets close to will die tragically, and so he has to just like create lives for them.
Yeah, and he's not like super wrong. Like, has a really great track record so far. And it's not that it's his fault. It's just the situations.
Yeah.
Lend themselves to that. So then Tomas says that he doesn't even know Marcus at all. He's like, I don't know anything about your life. You know everything about my life. And Marcus is like, this is it. Exorcism, wandering around. I was a priest, now I'm not. Like, my whole life. That's it. That's really it.
I mean, but also, I don't think he didn't say exorcism. What he said was, I faced some demons, I was a priest, and now I'm not. And I think, to be fair, that's not a lie. It's an oversimplification, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. But like, what in his life has not been him fighting a demon, whether it's himself or an actual physical demon? Like, his whole life from the start has been tragedy. So like, he's fought some demons. He's won most of the time. He was a priest, and now he's not. And that is, if it was a kindergarten level book that you had to write about yourself, that's an absolutely true story.
Yes, he nailed it. Or if it's something you don't have time to get into, it's the way
that's his obituary. Like, that's an obituary.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's so
like, it's okay for him to tell Tomas more, but also like, this is not the time. We have
no.
That's the next truck drive to the next location. Like,
right. But also like, you, sir, invited a demon into your head. You don't get new information at this current moment. Thank you.
Also true, because there's no way to know what's going to happen.
Right.
So we go to Rose, or we go back to the Holstroms, and Rose is sitting over Harper, who's just looking distraught. We learned she's been having night terrors earlier, and she's just not doing well.
I wonder why.
Yeah, right. Can't be any reason why. Not the Munchausen by proxy, the mom trying to kidnap her and then being murdered, and the guy that she thought was going to be her new dad being possessed by a demon. Like, none of those are good reasons for her night terrors at all.
Not at all. And also, like, we know that Harper was glad to be away from her mom, was glad to feel safe, but had conflicting feelings about it and did miss her mom. So murder wasn't really what she wanted for her mom.
Right. Like, she didn't want her to die. She just didn't want her to be in charge anymore. Like,
maybe if we're separated, you can get the help you need to be a person again.
Yes.
not a knife in the gut.
Yeah, that's not usually the answer to situations, I would say. Like 99.5% of the time, that's
What?
not the answer. I know that's shocking to hear. That's shocking. But um and then we learned that Russ is going to keep Morty because if they leave, Caleb can't really take him. And then he was also really Truck's bird anyway. So,
Oh my God.
that was such a
So
sweet
sad.
moment. And he also was like, yeah, I'll keep him for the like next week. Like, it's just pneumonia. You'll be back in like 2 seconds. And I was like,
Yeah.
now I've committed to a bird that's going to live longer than you. That's what birds do, but that's fine.
Yeah, but he
And
didn't really seem to have a problem with that. If anybody could keep a bird, it'd be Russ.
yeah, and like Morty seems like a great bird. Like, he seems fine.
He's like a canary that actually leaves and comes back, so he's a great bird.
Yeah, and like I don't like birds, and he seems fine. Like,
Yeah.
so it's okay. And then Verity is talking to Colleen about wanting to go to college for architecture, and she was like, there was this book that she found in her packing that was from Nikki and Andy, and Colleen's like, oh, why aren't you going to do that? And she was like, how? In 6 months, I'm going to be homeless. I don't have any support. I don't have any money. Like,
Yeah.
how am I going to go to college and become this great architecture, like architect? Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's so sad. And she's not wrong. That's like the life
No.
that's been set up for her. And without Andy or a loving home, like sure, maybe she'll get placed somewhere for the next 6 months. It's the most loving home anyone's ever had. But
But
that's, I feel like, a lower chance.
but like 6 months of taking in a 17-year-old in the foster system is not usually the I'm going to pay for your university and help you achieve goals kind of level of fostering.
Yeah.
That's you have 6 months till you're out of the system. Let me collect the money until I don't have to take care of you anymore kind of fostering, which is again shitty.
But standard. Yeah. And Verity, we all know, is
people, I just realized that people outside of the US listening to our podcast, if there is any, probably are like, what the fuck happens to children?
Well, I
in
think
this
it's
country?
less than 5%. So, like, less than 5% of you right now are super concerned with our system.
Don't worry. We are also concerned.
Newly concerned. Sorry, let me rephrase. Newly concerned with our system.
Yeah.
95% of you are aware.
And I'm not saying that means that the US has the worst system, because I'm sure there are places that don't have a system at all. But the US system is definitely concerning.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I've seen good cases. Like, my aunt fostered 2 kids that she adopted, and now they're like,
yeah.
But like,
no, and like one of my
students
students was a foster to adoption like situation.
Yeah.
So
like, yeah, it happens, and it's just not always happening.
yeah.
So she also is so upset that she just tosses the book, and I was like, that's so sad.
So sad.
And then we go back to the hospital where Bennett is now, thankfully, at. And we learned that he went into septic shock, and that's why he passed out. And now he has to stay in the hospital at least for a few days. And Mouse is like, that's too long. And the doctor's like, I don't care.
When the doctor was like, that wasn't a question. This isn't a conversation. Yeah. This is what's happening. I was like, okay. Yeah, I don't think that's legal, actually.
I don't think it is either, but I'm not 100% sure in this kind of situation. Like,
yeah, like I don't know when you forfeit the rights to. Well, to be fair, technically,
she doesn't have
any rights to take him out of the hospital, and he's not conscious to take himself out. So I think actually it is correct, but also I don't think it's legal for the doctor to force you to have medical treatment.
Yeah, I think that's true. But also the doctor mentions that it's mandatory to report if there are concerns about abuse. So it seems she's also concerned that Mouse has been abusing Bennett, and that is how we've ended up here, which is interesting. So we go back to the past, and Mouse is just sneaking around talking to this Miriam demon, and we learn that was the secret that she wasn't supposed to be a part of, and she's practicing exorcism by herself. Not a great idea.
No.
Would say that, not a great idea.
No.
But the demon, as they do, starts telling her that she's nothing and that they're like, you're never amount to anything. Like, let me show you the full face of God because you're never going to see it. And she gets too drawn in and steps over the line of protection and is immediately attacked by the demon. And I was like, Mouse, I am glad you seem to be smarter now, but you were not very smart then. It was not a good decision.
No, it was not. Also, sorry, I meant to say this when we talked about the first flashback Marcus and Mouse scene, and then I got distracted, because I couldn't think of what the word ordained was.
It happens. It happens to the best of us.
I would like to lodge a formal complaint with the wig department for what the fuck they put on Ben Daniels' head.
That was a rough choice. That was not a wise one.
No.
Yeah.
They were like, how do we make this man look younger? Give him long, shaggy hair. No.
There are other ways.
Also, he already looked younger. You did a shit ton of makeup to his face that made him look very young. You did not also need to give him like the weirdest combination of Fred and Shaggy's hair I've ever seen in my life.
It only made me think of the guy from what is it, the Prince of Egypt, the guy with the long blonde hair, or like the shaggy blonde hair that's short and chopped.
Are you talking about the road to El Dorado?
I'm talking about the road to
Okay. I was like, no one in the Prince of Egypt is blonde. They're all Egyptian and Israeli.
You're right. I always get I'm so bad at titles of that specific group of movies. Prince of Persia, Prince of Egypt, Road to El Dorado, like all of these.
Prince of Persia is not even an animated. It's like,
I know.
It's a video game.
The game's separate. It's a live action too, right?
Based on a video game.
Yeah. And so like all of these, just the titles all go out the door for me. I have no idea where they go. But that's exactly what I thought of when I saw Ben Daniels.
Yeah, no, I literally thought that it was like the color of Fred from Scooby-Doo, but the length of Shaggy. Like it didn't make any sense. I was like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, thank God we're back to today where he looks like a normal person.
Yeah.
And he's talking about the demon process with Rose and Tomas, and he's like, it could take weeks or months, and we don't have that kind of time because one, someone's going to notice this woman's dead.
Yeah.
And so we need to get him exorcised before that happens.
Yep.
And so he wants to put one of the children in there. And Rose is like, absolutely not. We're not doing that. And Verity is just like, yep, it's me. I'm doing it. Let's not a question. I'm in. I was like, great. Like, could be detrimental, but you kind of have a strong mental.
I was gonna say, if anyone can handle it, it's Verity.
Yeah. And like also like she's the only one that could really do that. Because also I think like regular Andy and Shelby had kind of been separating more because Shelby was seeing more of that. But Verity was the only one who had the emotional strength on her own and that connection to Andy that was gonna like really do the thing.
Caleb and Harper are too young and Shelby is not emotional. Yeah.
And
plus Verity was the first, and Verity's connected to Nikki in a way that none of the other kids are, and it hits him in a different emotional space.
100%. And so we see Tomas, who's again looking at the dead woman in the tub like something has happened. And he starts giving water to Andy, and he starts hearing a quote unquote ghostly whisper. And when he turns around, he sees Nikki over Andy. It's like, that's not good. It's not a good sign.
Not at all.
He drops his glass because he sees Nikki over Andy, and a piece of glass pops up at Andy. We see Andy clasp it in his hand. Also not a good sign. So
I missed that. I missed that moment, and then I couldn't figure out where it came from the next time we saw him, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? How do they let this happen?
It was pretty subtle, but it was like a scene and then it switched scenes. Like it was well done. So we go back to Marcus, and I at first was calling Peter Larry, and so I had to go back and change all my notes. But Peter is driving over to Andy's because he's heard that he has pneumonia.
Calling Peter Larry.
Yeah. I had forgotten his name. I thought it was Larry.
Yeah, no, the actor's name is also not Larry. It's Christopher.
It's not.
So, yeah.
Yeah. You're correct. He actually was the next highest build on this episode, and I didn't talk about him because you've already talked about him, so
Yeah.
we didn't need to. Um, so if you're interested, go listen to that Stargate episode that I couldn't tell you which one it is.
It's something that happened
5 weeks
a little
ago,
bit ago. Yeah, maybe.
within the past 2 months. It happened within the past 2 months. So
Yeah.
play roulette and see what happens.
Or just listen to them all.
Or listen to them all. You listen to one, you'll keep listening. So just pick one. You'll be fine. So we go back to the past, and Marcus is sitting over Mouse, trying to heal her and exorcise this newly possessed demon that has entered her from when she was attacked. And he is so emotional. Like, we have not seen quite this side of Marcus yet, which I mean, he's young, so it makes sense, but it's also very sad. Yeah. Mouse just keeps saying she wants to give up. And he's like, I have never lost someone to a demon before, and I'm not going to start now. And I was like, good for you. And then the demon starts telling Marcus that he's in love with Mouse, not Moose. Sorry.
I'm in love with a moose.
She's Mouse. She's a mouse, duh. And so he's in love with Mouse, and he can have her now because the demon has her, and so Marcus can have her if he will also give himself to the demon. And he just starts backing away. And then we come back to today. And Peter asks Marcus if he can help him in any way. And he's like, you just got to trust me. Like, nope, not anything anyone else can do. Sorry, friend. Like,
yeah.
And he's like, okay, great. I'll trust you. But then we're going to open a bottle of bourbon and sit down and like talk it all out.
Have a conversation.
Yeah. And he's like, well, we could do that. But like, what makes you think I'm going to stay around here? And he's like, we could travel. We could leave. Like, you don't have to do that. And obviously Marcus has to keep being an exorcist, so it's not going to work very well. And he's like, it just sounds so normal. And he's like, could be. Retire and do all this.
Yeah, right?
Like, unfortunately, Peter, there's a lot of demons and not a lot of exorcists left. So
right. And not a lot of them who have the ability to commune with God the way you're the man you really want to date has. So
or had and is trying to recollect. So we go back to Verity, and you can tell she's like a little nervous, but she's holding it together well, and Marcus is prepping her, and he's like, don't let the demon get to you, like, you've totally got this.
Yeah.
And to be fair, there is absolutely no way a 17-year-old would make it through this as well as she did. You put me into a demon room at 17, I would have just cried and given up. No. Like, it would not have gone well.
The first time the demon started telling me that I was trash, I would have been like, you're right, I am, and left crying.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no redeeming that. But she's not listening to the demon, and she's like, Andy, I know you're in there. Like, you're the first person who made me feel like I was worth anything. And the demon's like, you're worthless. And she's like, great, but I was, now I'm not. Like, everything's okay. And I was so scared that she was just going to keep getting so close and get stabbed.
And that's like, I was so scared. I was so scared he was going to stab her.
This piece of glass was the most stressful thing in this entire episode for me, because I didn't know when it was going to be used.
Yeah, no, the piece of glass was, and the second most stressful thing was the noise that Tomas was hearing in the bathroom, not because of him hallucinating or because of the dead body, but because it sounded squishy, and I just assumed that there was something living in the dead body, like maggots.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what was going on there. I was like, did a demon
I was like, if he
possessed her before she died?
I was like, if he lifts this up and there's maggots on that body because they've been doing this for so long, I quit. I'm not watching it anymore. Mm-hmm. I will watch someone stab a woman in front of their children. I will not watch maggots on a dead body.
Correct. That is totally fair assessment. But thankfully she does not get stabbed. She's telling him that he saved her. She kisses him on the head, and then regular Andy comes out and tells her he loves her. Oh, this is a minute. So Demon Nikki comes out first and is talking to her, and she works her way through that. And we keep seeing Andy prep this glass, and like, she's talking about pushing boundaries. Once she kisses him, Andy starts fighting the demon. And he says he loves her, don't listen to anything the demon's saying, and to run.
And then he says to the demon, I won't let you hurt my kids.
Yeah. And Rose goes with her because Marcus and Tomas are back at exercising him. And Rose tells Verity that she's incredible. And when they're driving off, the shot of that house made me feel like that was like the last time we were going to see that house, for like that Verity was going to see that house. And I was like, this is so sad.
It is. And I mean, it probably is the last time she's going to see that.
Probably is, but I just hate it.
I know.
So we jump back to the past, and Mouse wakes up, and there's another priest there that we don't know. His name's Father Robert.
No, I went immediately down a rabbit hole and tried to figure out the priest from the first Exorcist movie's name, because I was like, what if it's the same priest? But then I couldn't remember.
No. Yeah, this is just a priest and another guy that's assisting him.
Yeah.
And I never called his name. I don't know if he has one.
I think that's him. I just wanted it to be connected so bad. It wasn't.
Yeah. So they're helping with Mouse, and they say that she's cured. And so, like, the demon was exorcised. Great. Hurrah. And then Father Robert starts, like, being mean to her about it, which, like, I get. You have to admonish her for, like,
right.
Don't mess with demons. You don't know what you're doing. But then he tells her that Marcus left 3 weeks ago, and that because he couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's true.
I think it is. I 100% think it is. I don't think there was any reason to lie in that moment. I think it is, and I think that that's why there's this tension.
Well, I wasn't sure if it was because, like if he left because he was like, I can't do this, I have to quit, or if it was because someone saw how close they were and like, you can't do this, you're not allowed in there anymore.
No, I think
the situation was.
Oh, and that's fair. I don't know for sure, but I, in my gut, think that he was too emotionally attached and he had to separate himself, and that's why he gets so mad at Tomas for getting emotionally attached to things.
And that makes sense, and that's probably the correct answer. But I just wanted it to be that he didn't do that, that he, like, someone else tore him away, and that I think Mouse thinks that regardless of what actually happened, and that's why she have their thing. But I was just hoping it was like all a misunderstanding, and like he wasn't allowed to be there anymore, and she thinks he wasn't. So
I don't think that lines up with what we know about Marcus and his baggage.
I don't either. It just makes me sad. And then we have a flash to Mouse today, remembering the past and leaving Bennett in the same way she was. But to be
fair, Bennett's not possessed. He's just dying, and he's safe in medical hands, and the situation is dire, and she can't wait for him to wake up.
She can't wait for him to wake up. But it's going to be the same thing, him waking up alone.
Yeah. Which is sad, but it's luckily not quite the same.
Right. And then we see Rose going to the ferry station to get their tickets, and she's like, just stay here, I'll be right back. And then we go to Tomas, and he's starting to hear stuff from the dead body again. And Marcus walks in, thankfully, before he can pull the sheet off of her.
And show me the nuggets that I didn't want to see.
Yeah, and we learn that they just haven't slept in ages, which we knew, but they're just
they're both losing their shit.
Yeah, and so we go to Rose, who brought snacks, and because we learned they have to wait for the ferry, so she's like, "Here, I have snacks. We're just gonna chill here. Everything's gonna be fine in just a few hours." Whoops, not quite true, but okay. And when she comes back, we learn that Verity has left to go get her book, because now she realizes it's the only piece she has left of Andy and Nikki. And she's devastated. And she's a 17-year-old that is reacting with her emotions more than she has been, I feel like.
Which is, but also she's a 17-year-old reacting with her emotions, and they're, like, so valid. Yes. Such valid emotions. This
seems like the most accurate reaction that she's had. Yes. Everything else, she was a little bit too strong, and I feel.
Yeah.
Like, she should have been a little less together every other time we've seen her.
Agreed.
But Rose immediately drives off, puts Shelby in charge, drives off to find Verity, and finds her walking down the road in the rain. And she gives a sob story about her book, and Rose is like, great, get in, we're going to go get it. And I just felt so bad for Verity.
I know.
Now Demon Andy is saying things to Marcus, like, things could have been so normal with Peter. Like, you should have just, like, balled in. Why are you doing this? And he says that Marcus leaves everyone he loves, and like that's what happened with Mouse, that's what happened with Peter, and that's what's happening with like anyone else that he's ever had anything with. And he starts speaking in Mouse's voice, and Tomas has to pull Marcus off of him. Because
Yeah,
Marcus
he like
loses
flips the fuck out.
it. Yeah, he's not having it. And Tomas convinces him, he's like, you're losing your mind. You're getting too in depth. You need sleep. Let's work in shifts. And Marcus is like, yeah, I can totally get behind that. We can do shifts. And Tomas is like, only if I can go first because you have to sleep right now.
Yeah.
And he's
Which Tomas is wrong, but also right. Like Tomas is not in control, but he in this moment seems more aware of his lack of control, whereas Marcus is just like straight about to like fist fight a demon, and so he does in fact need a nap.
Yeah, but maybe like I don't know. They both should have taken a nap and tied him down more. Who knows? But that's not what happened. So here we are.
No.
We have a brief moment with Mouse. We see that she's on her way to find them. She's in the truck going.
Yeah.
We go to Marcus, who's falling asleep on the couch, while Tomas is still continuing his exorcism, and Andy still has this glass. And I'm like, now that Marcus is asleep, is Andy gonna stab Tomas? What's happening next?
Yeah.
So it's the third time I've been stressed out about this piece of glass. And then Marcus wakes up and he goes upstairs, tells Tomas he's feeling so much better. He's like, you're not even an apprentice anymore. Like, you've earned your spot as an exorcist. You're doing great things. And Tomas is like, that's exactly what I needed to hear.
Which is immediately red flag.
Immediately red flag.
I mean, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't get it. It took me a second to get it, but saying exactly what Tomas needed to hear, immediate red flag.
Immediate red flag, yeah. And then they start exercising again, and they just keep saying, pray for us. To all the saints. All the saints.
All the saints have to pray for them.
Yeah. So we go back to the kids who are playing cards while they're waiting on Verity and Rose to come back, and the lights go out. So now we know everything's going downhill from here on out.
Yeah. No, nothing good will happen ever again.
And so we go to Verity and Rose, who've gotten to Russ's, and Verity goes inside, and she's hearing something, but she can't figure out where it's coming from. The lights aren't working, so she's walking around. She gets her book, and then she hears Morty in the room, and as soon as she hears Morty...
Let me tell you, I fucking forgot that bird existed, and I was like, what is that noise? And I was like trying to figure out what metallic clinking could be. I was like, is somebody dead? Is somebody waiting with a knife? Like I was imagining all the horrific scenes. I was thinking, oh my God, maybe I was wrong and Russ really is a bad guy and Colleen is dead inside and he's waiting for somebody. I was like, what is happening? And then she opened the door and it was the bird and I go, oh my fuck.
I will say my first thought whenever she was looking around, I was like, Russ is also possessed and something bad is happening. Yes. And because he had been so kind before that, I was like, he's also going to be the one to be possessed.
Yeah.
But then we go back to Andy's and Marcus is still sleeping.
Oh my God. When I saw him asleep on the couch, I was like, no.
But he's sleeping, ... Still. Like, this hasn't ended yet. And we go through and we see blood is trailing through the house.
I knew Marcus was asleep. But I was like, the fuck is happening here? I couldn't figure it out. I could not figure it out.
Who is being dragged through this house or what is happening? I thought maybe Tomas was getting cut or the body was being dragged or something. I had no idea. And it turns out Andy has escaped. And Tomas has been under the demon spell this whole time, ever since he's been saying, pray for us. He's just been sitting in a chair with his eyes glazed over, repeating the phrase, pray for us, alone. And so that's not good. And then we go back to Verity, who now is going downstairs because the doors are slamming, everything is happening. She sees the door to the front is wide open and hears something upstairs at the same time. And when she walks around the corner, both Russ and Colleen are dead. And Rose has come inside, obviously, because it's taking a while for her to get out, and just tells her to run. And as soon as she does that, behind her, Andy walks up and just says, hey, kiddo.
Nope.
And that's the end of the episode.
No. To be honest, when I saw Tomas sitting there with his eyes glazed over and then the episode didn't end, I was like, what the fuck else could be happening now?
I had to look at the timestamp because I was like, is this the end of the episode? And then it wasn't. I'm like, oh no. Oh, no, this is bad.
Yeah.
And it
This is
was.
this is bad.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it was bad. There is no trivia. Um,
Is there ever?
no, there's never. We don't get trivia for this show. I'm gonna write trivia for this show for
Good.
every episode.
Good,
So
good,
I'm
good.
gonna also need a paycheck from IMDb.
Even if it's just honestly like every time they quote a Bible verse or a prayer, the trivia
Yeah,
should be what prayer they're quoting.
yeah, something. I'm gonna do this. This is gonna be
Yeah.
my Thanksgiving project. Um, so stay tuned. Um, so yeah, who do you want to punch in the face?
So many people. So very, very many people, but I'm gonna have to go with Tomas.
Yeah, like, yeah, it's not 100% his fault. It is from the beginning, but like today, he didn't have a whole lot of effect on it. But that's
I mean,
totally fair.
when the fuck has Marcus ever told you something nice? That's not who he is as a person.
Yeah.
He is nice to children and to people who have immediately recovered from their exorcism. And
Mhm.
that is quite literally it. He has
That
never
is
been
all.
nice to anyone else. Why do you think he would be nice to you?
Yeah. And why do you think that like he would say it this way also? Because like it's going to take at least 10 more years for him to tell you other things before he gets to something that's this level. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. But I wanted to punch a lot of people also. And I think I'm gonna have to go with Rose. She didn't do a lot terribly wrong. She just made a lot of bad decisions that made everyone separate. And she never should have separated everyone. Like if
No.
she was, she should have just said, all right, we're all going together to get Verity. And if they were
Yes.
going to go to the house, like never should let Verity go in by herself. Like, especially with the lights off. Like,
Yeah, I don't.
so she just
She's a
made
little
some
bit
bad
dumb.
decisions. Um, and I know that she never means any harm, but she's a bit to blame for some harm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
that's why I want to
she's
punch.
not the smartest.
Yeah. So on the flip side, who's your MVP?
Verity.
Yeah, yeah, she's the she's the right answer.
Yeah.
Um, the only one. Yeah, she was great. She did incredible things this episode. Because I thought you might go with Verity, I picked Mouse.
Which is fair because if I didn't pick Verity, she's the only other person that I thought like actually made good decisions this episode. Like
Yeah.
Marcus didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but Marcus was not outstanding. He was just
Hmm.
Marcus, and the choices he made in the past were maybe not great. Um, Mouse in the past for sure does not deserve the MVP.
No, absolutely not. But to come out on the other end of a demon, to then become an exorcist, and to make all of the necessary choices for people to be alive.
Yeah,
Like against his wishes, she took him to the hospital. Like,
because he was going into sepsis and was going to die.
and then she left him because she knew she had to get back to Marcus and Tomas. Like,
And because she knew that if she didn't and she stayed with him when he woke up and it was days later, he would have been so upset that they didn't
yeah,
succeed.
right. So she actually did make all of the right choices, even if
Yeah.
they were the upsetting choices.
Right.
They were the correct ones. But yeah, so I hope this episode isn't too short. I don't know when we started, so
I
I
don't
can.
remember, but
Okay,
also I don't think it was that short. We
okay,
went through the
great.
whole episode. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you all loved it regardless. So, if you have comments, concerns, questions, feelings, feel free to email them to us, deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find all of our social media at Death and Aliens. At the time that this comes out, we will have seen the entire season, so you can email us about whatever you want.
Yes, that's true. By the time this comes out, there will be no spoilers.
Yes, so we'll know everything. But yeah, and if you want to find me personally, you can find me at CE Cloud 13.
You can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we will see you in December for Sci Fi Sunday.
Bye.